Greetings, YouTube. So today we are taking a look at the Mezco 112 Collective Destro from G.I. Joe. So this is the first Mezco release of a G.I. Joe figure. This guy was up for pre-order a couple of years, well, maybe not a couple of years, a year or so ago. And I remember this was when, G.I. Joe Classified was really hitting its stride, but there was all the problems with G.I. Joe Classified as far as distribution and getting exclusives and people upset about all that stuff. And then Mezco, kind of out of the blue, nobody saw this coming, I don't think. I know I didn't see it coming. All of a sudden was like, hey, we're making G.I. Joe figures. And people was like, oh, well, you know what? I'm gonna just buy the Mezco G.I. Joe figures, forget Classified. Sounds good on the first, at first, but you also have to realize that Mezco is going to put out one figure every year and a half if you're lucky. Whereas G.I. Joe Classified is putting out figures, 10 or 12 a year, or maybe 8 to 10 a year. It's a different class of figure. This is a high-end figure, whereas G.I. Joe Classified is a lower end, still very good, gonna be mass-produced, gonna be easily, attainable. You're gonna be able to actually amass a collection, whereas the Mezco figures are more of a premium figure. So, taking a look at the box here, we have the front of the box, a nice picture of Destro. This is a very old school classic look for Destro. This is probably what was on the original vintage figures, or at least a reasonable facsimile of that. Then you got the back of the box. This is more of the art from the front, but just a smaller version, or maybe a bigger version, depending on your perspective. And then you have the sides, the top, and such. Not a whole lot to write home about. The vintage art is nice though, but we're not here for the box. Let's take a look at the figure. Okay, so Destro, arms dealer, Mars Industries, classic G.I. Joe character, a absolute staple in your G.I. Joe collection. If you're a G.I. Joe fan, you have a Destro figure, at least one. So let's have a look at Mr. Destro here. This is the Mezco version, obviously, but it is very classic in its representation. You have the all black outfit. You have the red holster. You got a belt. You got the gauntlets with the missiles. You have the Cobra-ish weird flamboyant outfit at the top, which actually is completely ridiculous, but none of us thought it was ridiculous back in the day. And then you have his signature iconic metal mask head. So the Mezco Destro does come with multiple heads, which we will look at during accessories, but this is a very excellent representation of the arms dealer. Very well done as far as looks go. I do have a few issues as far as, and this is really a Mezco thing, but there are some issues when it comes to articulation. And it just kind of, I don't understand how Mezco can make such great looking figures and, miss on essential articulation parts. I just don't understand why that's not something that they fix. But whatever, we'll get into it. All right, let's take a look at accessories. Okay, so as far as accessories goes, let's start with the hand. So he comes with 2 trigger hands, one for the left and one for the right. He also comes with, and those are triggers, the finger is a little bit more extended. Then he also comes with 2 smaller trigger hands, and he does have 2 different types of guns, so I'm assuming that's what that's for. You got 2 open hands, you have 2 gripping hands, and then you have a pair of hands where one is a pointer finger and then one is like an open splayed hand, and then he comes with the fist. So that covers the hands. As far as head sculpts, so he gets 2 extra head sculpts. You have the one that he comes with, and then you also have this one here of him laughing and or grinning. And he does have the eyebrows on that one. This is more reminiscent of the comic, and well, maybe not comic, but definitely the cartoon version. And then you have this one, which is a very stoic look, and this is very reminiscent of the original vintage figure, which had the angles, was a lot more sharper as far as his different features and such. So whatever your fancy is, whatever your mind's eye of Destro is, it'll be very easy to get him into that look because of these head sculpts. Then you have his tried and true, very iconic, very important accessory, his necklace. And this is an actual chain, and I'll take this out and put it on him here in a minute, but that comes separately. And then you have some weapons and weapon effects. Well, first off too, you also have this different holster to go onto his holster. It detaches. You can put this one on to hold his different type of handgun. You get this handgun, a Mars Industry special, not a real gun, but a very realistic looking but also futuristic gun. And then you get this large assault rifle, very nice looking. You get this effect part, which attaches to his gauntlet. This is for his wrist missiles. And then you get a spectacular looking briefcase, which, you know, the classified one came with a briefcase too, and it was very good as well, but this one is also great. This one actually has a battery operated light. So when you have this in here, if you hook up this little part actually comes out. This is detachable. So you have that. You have an on switch, and do I have this turned on? No, I do not. That's me being unprepared. Let's get this out of here. So there's a off and on switch here. Turn it on. Whoops. And press the button and you get the lighting effect. And then you can put that back into the case like so. And when he opens up the case, you can show the lit up features and have it look all awesome. But as cool as that is, you can take this part out and put in this, which has a very spy-esque, very, you know, intrigue and clandestine, detachable, collapsible, put together, take it apart gun, where you take all these pieces and you put it together and you'll have a submachine gun, and it all fits in the same case. So that is a very, very nice touch. This case is excellent. I love it. So that is his accessories, and they are very good. They're excellent. And that's where Mezco shines. When you get a Mezco figure, despite the sometimes irritating flaws or the things that you're like, why didn't they fix that? They always come through with the accessories. All right, let's take a look at his articulation. Articulation wise, we're looking at Destro here, and he can look up a decent amount. It would be nice if that was better, but the more you go, it just unattaches or detaches. He can look down a decent amount. This little piece here is probably stopping him from looking back further, because the neck does move, because you see it move when he looks forward or down. Your arms go out a very good amount. You get better than a T-pose. There is a bicep swivel in there. You're double jointed at the elbow. You have the typical Mezco wrist. His waist is very good to pretty good, and go back a heck of a lot. You can go forward a decent amount. You do have tilt here. You also have head tilt there, which I didn't mention. Legs are excellent. Destro going to Pilates. You have a double jointed knee. Is there a thigh swivel? It does look like there is a thigh swivel. There is no boot cut. This is where my issue is, the ankles. Mezco, can you please get your ankle articulation together? Sacrifice some of this aesthetic, some of this sculpt for more ankle pivot. That's terrible. That ankle pivot is trash. That's as far as it goes. It's not enough. It just isn't. That's not enough. That's not enough. You could have cut this part out. You could have shaped it a certain way so that it would get out of the way. There's all types of stuff you could have did for this ankle to make it better. Going back, barely anything. Going forward, barely anything. Ankle pivot, minimal at best. It's a weakness. It just is. And they're too good of a company. They make too good of figures to continue to struggle with ankle articulation. That is unacceptable at this point. And it'll forever be something that people bring up when people start talking about Mezcos and the pricing and the availability and whatever else. It'll be, and on top of all of that, you don't even get a good ankle joint. And they're right. You don't. It's not good enough. All right, let's look at some size comparisons. Okay, so for the all-important size comparisons, let's take a look at the most important ones first. So you have Destro with the Baroness. This is the classified Baroness. They really need to do a redo of her. Fix her articulation, make her more posable. The sculpt is fine, but you got to find a way to make her stand better, fix the joints. At this point, this is an antiquated figure. We need a better Baroness. Then you got Destro with Dr. Mindbender and Zorana, one of his other love interests, if you're keeping track. Then we got Destro here with the G.I. Joe classified Serpentor, and good lord, he is huge. I didn't really realize how much bigger he is than everybody else. And then you got Cobra Commander. Okay, so now we have the Destro comparison. So we got the Mezco Destro and then the classified Destro here. And it does look like, which I'm kind of surprised by, but the Mezco Destro is a little bit taller than the classified one. He is a bit thicker. That I'm not surprised by, because Mezco figures run a little bit, girthier, if that's a word. But take a look at them side by side. This is the original release for the classified Destro. This is not the retro release. I do have the retro release, so I probably need to grab that and show you that as well. But I think that both of them are excellent representations of the character. It's really just a matter of preference, and or if you're willing to put out more money for a more premium, soft goods, more accessories type figure. Okay, so I am not mint on card collector guy. That is not me. I've never been mint on card collector guy, but for whatever reason, this retro classified Destro I never opened up, and it is mint on card. So I'm not going to take them out right this second. So there's a good look at all three of the Destros that you could have if you're looking at classified and Mezco. And just because I always do it, here is a random, well, not random, but a comparison to other lines. Here is the recently released Ultimate Captain America, which is an excellent figure. And then the Action Force Bone Collector. Real quick, full disclosure, I did forget a couple of things. So this wrist gauntlet actually opens up to a little screen/computer thing that he can use or look at. So that is a nice feature. And his belt is movable, but if you move it too much, you'll do like I did, and you will snap the little glue fixture that goes there. That is something I'm going to have to fix. That is not a QC issue. I overdid it and I moved it too much and it undid itself. Again, an easy fix, but it is something to be aware of. If you do it, if you try to get this belt too far down his torso where it isn't big enough to really fit there, that's going to come loose. But I'll fix that with a dab of super glue and it'll be fine. But final thoughts on Destro here. He is a very, very good release. A nice start for Mezco as far as their G.I. Joe line. They do have Snake Eyes coming. They have Storm Shadow coming. They have Roadblock coming. And I want to say that's it so far. I do have all of them pre-ordered. It's one of those things. I'm a real big G.I. Joe guy, so anything G.I. Joe I will probably get as long as it fits with the stuff that I have, which is why I have not gone down the Super 7 road. They're too big to fit with the rest of my G.I. Joe stuff, and I want my stuff to be able to fit together. So Mezco works out nice for that, because even though it's up on the more expensive and a more premium release, size-wise, it still fits with my Joes. I want to be able to take my Action Force and fit them with my G.I. Joes. And if they're too tall, it's not going to work. But that's me. So, is it a great release? Yeah, I'd say it is. Does it have some flaws? The ankles are a bit of a pain in the ass, to be perfectly honest. Mezco has to do something about their ankle articulation. It's ridiculous at this point. Do you need this release if you already have the classified Destro, whether it's this one or the retro one? No, you don't need it, but you might want it. That's up to you. Like, comment, subscribe. Later.